Good morning, everyone. So I do want to let you know that the recording is on. So hopefully everyone's okay with that. If not, please go witness protection and hide yourself. We are waiting on our presenter, who is Linda Perry, who's here, who will be talking to us about microboards. If she's not here, we will punt. And our topic today really is how do we create equal and respectful relationships or partnerships for everyone involved? So really, how do we look at creating equal footing for folks? So where are folks from? I know Lori and Holly are from Maine. Lindsay's from Tennessee. Caroline, how about you? Where are you from?
Vancouver.
Vancouver. Oh, okay. So do you know Linda Perry?
No, I don't think so.
And are you prepared to fill in for her?
No, no, not at all.
30 years experience with microboards, and I believe, is coming from Vancouver.
Yeah, I did have to calculate the time zone there.
Right. And Demir, how about for you? Where are you from?
I'm from Windsor, Ontario.
Okay.
I was in Vancouver actually a few weeks ago. Beautiful area, beautiful city.
Yeah. I'm in Colorado and Michael is in New Jersey. So it looks like we've got a small group today, and unfortunately our presenter is not here. That is Linda Perry, who's supposed to be joining us from the Vancouver area, is my understanding, and to talk about microboards. Our topic today really is how do we create equal and respectful partnerships for everyone involved. So I thought I could at least fill in and give a little example from my background. And then hopefully that will help. I work with Support Development Associates, so I work with Michael Small, and our focus really is how do we infuse person-centered practices into organizational structure and systemic structure to support people in a more holistic way and really have them in the driver's seat. And prior to that, I come from the direct care world. I've been a provider for many, many years, and had my own service agency for a while. And the agency I created was started because there were many people in the system who were considered challenges to the system because they didn't really fit in the box of what was being offered. And so I looked at creating an agency to support people based upon what they wanted and what they needed. And rather than saying, you're going to fit into the box that I've got available, what is the box that you want and how can we create that for you? So it really started off as supporting people in a person-centered way. And one of the things that was really critical for me was how do we really keep that partnership going to really figure out how we can make things work for folks. And because we were a different type of agency, there was a lot of concern whether we would be successful or not. Because we weren't following the traditional way of delivering services. And we offered residential supports, day supports, employment supports. And one thing I really learned is that communication was really critical. If we really want to have a good partnership, we need to have good communication. So we would routinely have, every 6 months, we would hold town hall meetings where we invited all of our stakeholders to come and talk to us about how we were doing, what we could improve on, what was going well that we could keep the same. So that included our funders, that included family members, that included advocates, all of those folks who, my belief is let's have them sitting at the table as opposed to pointing fingers at us. And it started to develop some partnership to really make things happen. One of the things that really came out of that I thought was interesting is we never had to do advertising to support people. They would come to our agency because they heard about us. Mm-hmm. And we always made sure that that those who were coming to our agency got to talk to people who were receiving support through our agency and talk to family members. And we always made sure that there was at least one family member who had been dissatisfied with our services, talking with those families to think about how we could work things through. It wasn't just say, I'm going to get in a battle with you and that's it, but it's how we work things through and really looked at resolution, which was an interesting approach. Typically the people who are the naysayers, are the people you try to keep away and hidden from folks. But this created a whole new dynamic about how to support people. And then it was really clear that we needed to go one step further than that. The services we were offering were for people coming to our agency to say, hey, this is what I want. And so one of the things I often found is that people receiving supports many times say things but aren't listened to. I'm sure you've experienced that. And what we did is every other month, we would have something known as the brainstormer session. You know, a lot of times we give lip service to the people we support. Maybe we put them on a board, or maybe we put them in a committee. And it's kind of tokenism and enablism. We never listen to what people have to say, but they're sitting at the table, so we're doing a good job. No, we're not. So in our organization, what we did is, as executive director, I would meet with the people we supported every other month. And it was run jointly by people we support who co-chaired the meeting with me. They came up with the idea of brainstormers to really think about what we could do to be better supports to the people that were using our services. And some amazing things happened from that. People really found a voice. They helped us improve our organizational operation so we could design services and supports that made sense to people. We could look at outcomes that made sense to people. You know, we had people get their driver's licenses. We had people buy their own homes. We had people in intimate relationships, you know, all sorts of things that we say we want for people, but then something gets in the way to make that happen. Okay. And what was cool about it is people got to show off their unique skills and talents. We actually turned it into a potluck. So all the people who were coming to the meeting brought something that they maybe been working on about learning how to cook or favorite food. So we got to learn a lot about the people we supported in a way that made sense. And they had control over things. And it took our organization to a whole different level. You know, one of the things we ended up doing as our day services, where we tried to get people connected to things that they liked and places they like to go and things they like to do. I know a lot of times our day services that offer those types of service models, we have a schedule and this is where we're going, and you work in groups and everyone goes. And we know how successful that is. So what we did is we actually had the people we supported design the schedule. And we didn't have set groups. We say, oh, this group, this person wants to go do this. So people who were interested in that, along with staff who liked that same thing, went and did that. And so the groups were constantly changing and people enjoyed what they were doing. And when you have people who are, who like what they're doing and have that same interest, amazing connections happen. So it was a different model to really think about how we could promote partnership and respect to really make things happen. Now, I know you guys have been here before, you know the drill. We're going to use Mural. It's I think Michael put the link in chat. And if there were any tidbits that came from the story that you thought were helpful, go ahead and add those. That's going to be item number 4. I'll give you a moment to do that, and then we'll break us up into breakout rooms so you can have some conversations about really what are you doing to help foster that respect, that partnership, that relationship that really everyone is on equal footing. Here's Linda.
Good.
Yep. My sincere apologies. Getting on my computer this morning was a nightmare. I am so sorry.
That's okay. We were
Welcome.
But people are very interested in microboards.
Oh, okay.
So maybe some of the stuff that I just shared may fit well with the microboard model as well, really thinking about people having more control.
Bob's been punting. He's been doing a very nice job of it.
Thank you very much, Bob. My sincere apologies. I'm in panic mode here.
When we are subject to the cyber gods, all bets are off.
No, anyway, it's been stressful. I'm certainly awake now. Yeah.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
So
Yes.
you guys can use that information that I just shared from the organization I used to work with. And just so you know, they just celebrated their 25th anniversary. So we obviously put something in place that was a good model. But Linda, let's hear from you. I know that you were going to be talking to us about microboards, and you've got vast amounts of experience.
Yeah, a little, yeah. Okay, so yeah, I'm just to give a brief background, I've been working with and for Vela for 32 years now. And I recently retired as executive director, and I'm now just responsible for special projects and helping with situations that are particularly complex. So I'm still hanging in there. I know yesterday we were talking and people were saying, if I retired, I don't know what I'd quite do. And I said, well, what you do is you retire, but you don't. So anyway, so I've been with Vela since the beginning of microboards. And what I thought I'd talk about for our storytelling, and I'll make it brief now because I'm late, is just around the first microboard that we created, because it still exists. It started 32 years ago. And it's for a friend of mine now who we've gotten to know each other because it was a first for both of us. And I'm actually on her microboard now and have been for a number of years. And part of the focus of what we're talking about today too is around respecting all people involved and hearing everyone and making sure that everyone feels they're part of whatever process is going on, and they're respected and they're valued. So in our situation, when we started 32 years ago, we didn't know what we were doing. Obviously, it was the first microboard we ever created. And so we really made our path by walking. So in her situation, her name's Shanti, and she gives me permission to share our story now because we've been connected for so long. Right now, where things are at for us is Shanti's had a microboard for 32 years. She's currently that, I don't know how much you talked about microboards, but I'll make it brief.
Not at all.
Okay. So then I'll explain what it is. First of all, the idea of a microboard is micro meaning small and board meaning nonprofit. So the people that sit on the board, it's done for one person, or in some exceptions, if they're children, if there's more than one person with diverse abilities in the family, then it would be done around the family. But in Shanti's case, it's for her. And everybody that sits on the board has to have a relationship with that person. So it has to be somebody that if the person can tell you in whatever way they tell you who are the people they trust, that's who you go with. So in Shanti's case, she can speak her feelings around that. So she picked her board members. And the idea is that we work with the person, supporting them. By work, I don't mean we're in there paid working. We just work in support of figuring out what it is she wants life to look like and then helping make that happen. So in this particular situation, she's been really clear about the kind of place she wanted to live and how she wanted life to look. Lots of microboards, the person doesn't speak, and we have to interpret their behavior, and we have to know them well enough to be able to do that, to be able to interpret their behavior and what they're telling us. The board members are then sponsors to community. So we share time together. We share meals together. We just really spend time together as a group and as friends. And through that process, we can then help determine what's in the best interest of the person and really get to know them in a deep way. So obviously, because I've known Shanti for 32 years, we're pretty close. And one of our favorite, one of the things she's teasing me about now is I've turned 65, obviously, because I retired. And next year we'll have known each other half my life. And she thinks that's pretty funny that we've known each other half my life. She says, you're really old, which really makes me feel great, But anyway, so we've been through a lot together. We've seen a lot of changes in her life. Right now, her microboard consists of myself, her sister and brother, her brother-in-law, and another couple of family friends. So, and we've gotten to know each other very well because we've been a stable board, meaning we haven't changed membership for probably about 8 years now. Up until then, like I said, so in the 32 years, board members have come and gone because people's lives change. Her mom was on the board, but her mom's not well right now. So her mom stepped down from the board, and we just went, okay, well, let's find someone to replace her mom. So we still got the number of people that we want to be here. So we have 6 people on the board, including Shanti. And the idea is that in her life, she'll express what she wants. And unlike a lot of other services, our job is to help make that reality for her. So we have to listen deep to her and what she's saying. And when I say, when she expresses what she wants, it doesn't necessarily mean, like all of us, it's going to look exactly the way she described it. So in some ways, for instance, when we were exploring, she uses a wheelchair to get around. And she wanted to live, there's a community in British Columbia in Lower Mainland near Vancouver that's called New Westminster, and it's all hills. Well, she's in a chair, and when I first started talking about where you want to live, she said New Westminster. And so I thought, well, that's unusual. She uses a chair. Why would she want to live in New West? So what I did is suddenly went, have you been to New West? And she said, no, but I like it. And I went, okay, well, let's go there. Let's look around. So once I took her there and she saw that everywhere is either going up or going down, she said, maybe I don't want to live here. And I said, well, let's, do you want me to just take you around and show you some places? So we drove around and found a place called Richmond, which is flat. It's on a delta. And where we stopped happened to be where there was a mall. She loves to shop. And there was, not far from the mall, there was a field, an athletic field. And there happened to be guys playing soccer that day. And at that point, she was quite young and thought that was pretty good too. So she says, I want to live here. So that's where we found a place for her in that area. So again, giving her choices, like she thought she knew where she wanted to live. And it doesn't mean I just go, okay, let's get her a place in Richmond or in New Westminster. It was, well, let's explore this idea and see if that's really what you want. It's been a great journey because she's taught me a ton. And likewise with the board members too. We've really gotten to know each other. Like it's a different kind of knowing because of what we're doing. We didn't start out being friends. We were strangers to one another. And because of what we're doing with Shanti, she's been the bridger for us. So she's helped us get to know each other better. And we're honestly like family now. And that's not something we anticipated. That wasn't what we thought we'd be doing. But when you're really listening deep to each other, you can't help but. It's not like it's all one way. Like it's not just about Shanti and we're all doing good works, because that's not what it was. It was we became friends. Every year, Shanti and her mother lives in a community about 8 hours from us driving. And every year I pack up my family and a couple of her support people, and I go up and we visit her mom and her sister in this small community. And my kids have become friends with her nieces and nephews. And so our families are intertwined now because of the commitment we made to each other. It doesn't mean it's all roses and sunshine either. We often disagree, like including board members. Like there's been times where it's been pretty intense, where we've not agreed on how we think we should do something. But the great thing is, I think because we trust each other enough now, we can do that and we can feel heard. And we're all very different as far as our lifestyles and our belief systems. But again, we listen to each other deeply. Her mom, for instance, who just went off the board a couple of years ago, is one of my dearest friends. But she, as we both joke, she's adamant. She's a hippie, and she was a real hippie. Shanti was born on a commune, and it's just that kind of stuff. And she uses alternate therapies, and it's a foreign world to me. And she, she's lived pretty rustically. And we joke about the fact that I don't go if I can't plug a blow dryer in. Like I'm not into hard life, and if I'm going away somewhere, I want to have a good time, and I want to worry about getting the fire going. And, so if somebody's got a fire going, hey, and I'm in, but it's not my lifestyle. So we joke about how could two people that are so different end up being such close friends. But to me, Shanti brought that to me, because I would never gotten to know her mother if it wasn't for Shanti, and likewise. And then she has a sister who's a Canadian television star. She was on one of the most successful, or the most successful comedy that was ever on Canadian television. And so lives the lifestyle of an actress. So it's, again, quite a different lifestyle. So we all have gotten to spend time together and really learn about each other. And I remember for my 40th birthday, so 25 years ago, her mother threw me a birthday party in her home community. And it's a pretty scattered community. And the mayor was there, which is a joke because the town has like 157 people or something. I mean, basically the entire town came. one of my presents, my biggest present, was somebody taught me how to throw a stick properly. And we had like, it was just, and I remember standing there at one point and going, who would have thought, like, who would have thought I'd be standing here on my 40th birthday with the town of Slocan. It's called Slocan City, which is a joke because it's really, really tiny. It's a beautiful little place, but you know, somebody told me that's where I would be, and these would be people that I considered my friends, and some of them are like family now. I never would have believed it. And it just, I think, spoke to the commitment we all had to really understanding one another, and the priority that we each had was Shanti, and that we were trying to really help her have the life she wanted. And that's been going on now for, you know, 32 years. And I'm still very much in her life right now with COVID. We had someone that tested positive. I won't go into that, but just even how we handled that with our staff. We have protocols, obviously we have to. But we were able to, because everybody, needless to say, got into a pretty serious panic, which I understood why. Everybody was quite worried, but being able to sit down with each person and listen to, okay, so what's your concern here? Everybody had had their shots, but there was people that wanted full PPE again, like we were in the hospital, and other people that are going, look, I don't see this as a big deal. And I said, okay, so here's what we have to do. This is what government requires of us. But within that, there's a wide range of stuff. So if you feel you need PPE, which is not required at this point because everybody tested negative, but if that's your concern, I'll get it. We'll just put the PPE in place. And for the other people, as long as they stayed within the parameters of what we were expected to do, I said, then, you know, work at your comfort level. And everything just calmed down. And consequently, that felt better for Shanti because she could feel this building up. And if people felt they needed to be off, they're off. And that's when I say that, it's like, oh yeah, it's not like that. I mean, it's quite serious for us because we have a very small staff team and a small group of supporters. It's not like we've got a ton of staff in the wings that can come in. So what that means is Shanti and I spend more time together. So she's getting pretty used to me doing things like this. I'm not there today, but doing things like this from her house right now, because if there's no staff, I go and hang out with her. And it's not something we do for a long period of time, but as a board, this is what we can do when we're trying to listen to everybody, including the staff in the situation, and trying to make it work for everyone. For me, it doesn't necessarily come naturally that I can listen deeply. I'm quite opinionated, and I can sometimes shoot my face off before I think things through. But this has been a really good experience for me in learning to actively listen, hold my tongue, and really try to hear what people are saying. Because if we don't, things don't work for Shanti. And so it's another gift I think she's given me, is that it's helped me develop deep listening skills, and also the rest of the people that are in her sphere that are part of her board. So it's been a really important process for us to ensure she has a successful life, and that we also feel like we're supporting each other during that. So everyone in her circle feels like their position, no matter how different or divergent from other people's, is being heard. We won't always necessarily be able to accommodate everybody to the degree they might want, but they're going to know that we're hearing them, their opinion is valid, and we care about what's happening for everyone. So for us, that's worked really well for 32 years. It's certainly been an evolutionary process. And we're, in fact, right now with COVID, we've learned a whole new level of understanding and listening to one another. And I'm grateful to be part of it. And it's gratifying to see that she has the life she wants, and she's happy. And I'm also very grateful for the friendship it's brought into my life, and the relationships that I don't know I would have, well, I know I wouldn't have known these particular people, and I certainly wouldn't have had the depth of knowing with other people if it wasn't for the fact that we all agree to actively listen and respect one another. So it's been really, really a wonderful process for me, if sometimes hard. So I'll stop there because, like I said, I'm aware I'm late. So
thank you, Linda. And so the majority of folks have been to sessions before, so they're familiar with Mural.
Okay.
Lindsay, I think you're new, so I'll do a quick refresher. In chat, we posted a link for Mural, so you can click on that. That'll open up. Basically, it's a whiteboard program where you can post electronic Post-its. On the right-hand side, there's an outline. Each of these different numbers is corresponding to one of the sheets that you see on the whiteboard. And on the left-hand side, what is really helpful is the second item, which is a square with an upturned corner in the lower right-hand side. You click on that, that just provides a bunch of Post-its. You can click on a Post-it and put it on the board that you want, or you can be on the board. And because we've just heard from Linda, the story gems, which is number 4, is, and I'll share my screen real quick so you can see this. So you can see the Post-its on the left-hand side, story gems. You just click on that number 4, that'll take you to that page. Then you can take a Post-it and you click on it and it shows up on the board, and then you can just type on that and your thoughts are there. And then you can click again and another Post-it will pop up. So if you've got more thoughts, and you can delete that. And if you want to move your Post-it because it's in the way, the bar that's above the Post-its with the 4 arrows pointing in different directions, notice it says move. That'll allow you to move your Post-it. Okay. I think I'm going to get rid of that. You just right click on that and then you can delete it. And if there were any things that really stood out based on what Linda shared with us, please go ahead and put that. And then in a minute, we'll send you to sheet number 6, which is, we'll give you a question to answer about what you've heard. And as a group, in your small group, think about what are the top 3 nuggets that you heard that you really think other people should share from your discussion. And you can do that while you're in your breakout room, and then we'll do a debrief when we come back. And Linda, do you have a question that you want them to think about for their breakout room?
Well, I think the question we were asked to think about was, how can we actively participate with each other and make sure everyone feels heard and respected?
Great. All right, so give folks just another minute to get some light bulb moments that happened as Linda was sharing, and then we'll put us in breakout rooms, and probably do 2 breakout rooms, 4 people each, and probably 10 minutes in the breakout room to share our thoughts, really thinking about what are we doing to really promote that partnership for equality and respect and making things happen for each other. And if you're not familiar with breakout rooms, you'll see a join button that pops up, and click that join button. That'll take you to the breakout room. There'll be a timer in the upper right-hand corner that will let you know how much time is left for your discussions. And you can, again, use the mural board to get your top 3 ideas that came up through your discussion. Okay, so collective ideas, not individual ideas, but your collective ideas. We'll put that on sheet number 6, which is the first conversation. Okay.
All right.
So should we do a quick debrief from each of the rooms?
Sure, I can call them out. If we can start with room 1, which was Linda and I. I don't know. You want to take a stab at it, Linda? I'll put you on the spot. You're the star of the show today. What were the choice nuggets that you were hearing in our conversations?
Well, with Lindsay, I was just like,
oh, good timing. you just froze up. I was going to say good timing. Go ahead, okay. Start again.
Okay. I think some of the nuggets, especially just as we were ending there, I'm really sorry, Lindsay, to get more time. Just talking about how even within like one state, being mindful of there's different areas within that, and when you're working within an area, recognizing it may not do things the same way you do, and really paying attention and being respectful of that, and not assuming that you can come in. I hope I'm getting this right, Lindsay, and advocate in another area that it may look differently for those people, and being humble about it, which I really appreciated. And then with your stuff, Michael, what I really appreciated too is that acknowledging that systems are hard things to break down, and just because we might change the color of the paint in the room, this is my paraphrasing, doesn't mean we really changed anything in the system. We're doing, we may be making changes that look like they're changes to the system, but it's a lot deeper and harder than some of the more superficial things that we're doing. And it's still, a fair long road to go to get somewhere where we're actually really making the kind of change that we're talking about. Is that fair, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's a paradigm shift, and when it comes to power and relationships, power has a lot to do with them, and so having respect for relationships means really looking at things from a very different paradigm, which I don't think almost anyone has really reckoned with the magnitude of change that will be required to really make a difference for the people who are most, kind of affected or disenfranchised. But I wanted to give Lindsay an opportunity just to finish her thought, not to put you on the spot, Lindsay, but is there anything you would add in terms of our conversation? Or small enough group? Yeah.
No, I enjoyed speaking with Michael and Linda. They went on a big, and I went really, I went really small. I was just saying that I work with a lot of advocates, a lot of self-advocates, and just treating people like people, I said, has been the biggest shift, not treating anybody special. With what I do, we hire people, and if somebody doesn't show up for something, or somebody doesn't do their job, some people are so used to saying, oh, it's okay, you can get it done later. And I'm just not that type of person. I'm like, no, you were supposed to do your job, and just treating people. And people are shocked when you talk, but it's respect. I'm treating people like I would treat anybody else. If you have a job to do, get the job done. And it's just, it's actually built a lot more relationships. And what I do, and just getting to know people better, and people, I respect people, they respect me. And it's become a really good working relationship. That was just what I was saying, just respect and humble. Treating everybody.
Right. And then if you all, I don't know if you all can manage to put any of that in mural, but if you can,
I captured some of those nuggets.
Oh,
So
good. Bob's on it. And then room 2, we lost one, but we have Caroline and Jen. I don't know if either of you can share a little bit of what you all discussed, maybe just some insights or highlights.
Carolyn, do you want me to go?
You can both go, whatever works.
Okay.
It's a small group today.
So we talked a little bit about this idea of being in a situation with a person where, where we've maybe imposed our idea onto somebody, and just calling out the moment and saying, you know what, geez, man, I just, to be completely transparent, it was me, and it was last night. I was with somebody, and they picked out an orange juice, and I was like, oh, really? You're gonna get that one? Like it was any of my business, right? And so I felt like in that moment, what I said to her was like, listen, I shouldn't have said that. Like, that's the orange juice that you drink. It's, it's your money. You worked, you earned it. You're buying, I'm driving, and I should just, I apologize. It's really not. And it's something that I think that, I don't do direct support as much as I used to. So I'm sort of, it's interesting to go back into it periodically here and there, and get into those situations and watch myself screw up, right? And then figure out like what to do with that information, and to own it, and to figure out, how to kind of, not do it again. But there's also this idea, I was thinking about it as I was driving home last night. There's so much in our system in the early years I have a son, and so much of it was around this idea of, compliance for the sake of compliance. And I go back to that quite a lot because so many years we worked on, I didn't work on it. I tried to get the school to stop, but this whole idea of look at me, and this idea of building in their culture of people with disabilities, this idea that you have to please me somehow, that you need to be compliant. Compliance makes me happy, and then making the right choice, and I'm going to be watching you that you're making the right choice, right? And so it's something that I talk about when I meet parents, young parents that have just received a diagnosis or are just starting this journey, right? Is this idea of rethink that, rethink that it's important that your son or daughter, doesn't run into the street and doesn't touch the hot stove. But some of those other things we have to think about how we're incorporating that, because then people get to be 20, 25, 30, and we're asking them to sit on our boards and we're asking them to be a part of the conversation. And yet they're so used to us giving them their opinions and giving them their script and what they can and can't say, that it's almost unfair for us to think that just by putting them on our boards or by quote offering the opportunities, right? It's like, it's disingenuine, and it's actually more, in a lot of ways, it's more it's disrespectful, it's more harmful, it's more degrading, because it's not we haven't set them up for that. Does that, any of that what I just made make? And I feel like I'm going to start crying, but I just think it's I see, I was on the council for a little while in New Jersey on developmental disabilities on their staff, and I watched how we treated people that experienced disabilities and the way that they were managed, and it angered me because of what I just said, so it's like, of course she put back the orange juice when I said, is that the one you want? And then looked at me for direction as to what, and I was like, oh my God, get the orange juice, I don't care. Just so anyway, I'm starting to ramble. That's what kind of we were talking about in our meeting. Caroline, do you have anything?
No, the other woman was giving us sort of a similar example at the bank, and having to redirect people to speak to the individual versus speaking to the staff or the staff support or that kind of thing. And then I was going sort of bringing up some different thoughts or ideas that we've sort of been toying with in our agency, where just trying to get support individuals more involved in even the bigger things that happen in our agency, or the smaller things, whether it's thoughts or ideas of how to get support individuals to kind of help or be a part of sort of interviewing staff or something like that, or planning events and things, but not just on the day of sort of stuff where they're volunteering and they come show up and you give them the assignment thing. Everything's already figured out. They're just sort of showing up and helping with, passing food around or doing little things that have already been assigned, but actually having them be more involved in the whole planning pieces of some of those kinds of things or events or stuff like that. We've had different sort of self-advocate sort of groups float in and float out, and it sort of works and it sort of doesn't work and things like that, but it's sort of a constant sort of thing. And then I know I was also sort of starting to talk a little bit about with our individuals who, it's sometimes it's easier for sure to get to help out individuals or to assist them when they're verbal and they're opinionated and they've got some thoughts and ideas and all that kind of stuff, but it's really hard and it's a lot more challenging, and it's really it's harder to overstep and things like that for individuals who are not able to verbally or easily communicate about what they want and things like that too. And then you get the parents who make all the decisions for them and stuff like that. And so how do we go along and make sure we really are respecting their thoughts and opinions, but at the same time it's really hard to extract that sort of stuff out of them. So that's the ongoing challenge and stuff like that. That's all.
All right, thanks, Caroline and Jen. And I think I see some trending in terms of sort of the macro and the micro. There's the things that we can do as supporters and allies and people in reciprocal relationships that, show respect and sort of walking humbly and challenging ourselves and trying to see ourselves, in a truer light. And I think that at the same time, that's the same thing with our systems that are really pushing a tide that is working against all that. And so I think knowing that, when you're finished changing, you're finished. That's what they say, right? So, but let's go to room 3, Demir and Vanessa and Bob, you were with them?
So Demir, Vanessa, would one of you like to share some of those talking points we came up with?
Sure, I can do that. Sorry, Vanessa, I don't know if you were going to.
No, it's okay. You go ahead first.
One of the points we had was in order to have people a part of the process as much as possible is always having, a spot available for them to be a part of the meetings, the process, everything, so that they have shared voice and opportunity as anyone else would, especially as it is their life. And obviously that's a difficult thing to have happen at times. And, as we've spoken about it here, there's a lot of, barriers that comes with that. There's at times red tapes or whatnot, to break through, but that should always be the main goal.
I just wanted to add, Jen, your insight was kind of blew me out of the water, and I also too was crying. I just think that, we try, a lot of us in the past, I have a son that has a disability, and I'm that crazy mom. I have been that person that tried to make all the decisions for him. And now fast forward, he's 18 years old. And, I just started learning about 5 years ago to let go and let the process happen the way it should, and let him decide what he wants for his life. And, I see him struggling through conversations with his doctor now, because how many times did mom overstep and over talk and not let him communicate his feelings and thoughts? I just said, well, no, this can't happen, and this and this and this. So I get it from both angles. And I also support folks in our community that have intellectual disabilities. So I do a lot of learning personally and professionally, which is a blessing a ton of times. But just letting people decide, like, back off. And, even, I don't know, I think it was Jen that said, talking about the orange juice, like, even just recognizing that, oh crap, and then you caught yourself, in that moment, like, that's growth, and that's, that's change, and that's moving forward in a different direction. And, kudos to you for recognizing it, because, God knows I've done it in the past week, grabbing somebody's laundry and thinking, oh, well, they can use a hand, they look tired today, without even asking, right? Without even asking, or just standing by and supporting, and hey, if you need a hand, I'm here. So it's just that decision making, where did those lines get blurred? Where, how can we step back and just let people, and if they fail at something, that's okay. We all fail at things, it's part of life. That's how things go. So thanks everybody.
Thank you
Great.
both. So this is typically where we go into a second breakout room for more discussions. If we do that, we won't have time to debrief. So I'm wondering if maybe if we just did a larger group discussion, and we could just all share our thoughts on sheet number 7, which is the second conversation. And Linda, I don't know if you had a specific question for this, but I was kind of curious, as we're thinking about this, creating equal and respectful relationships and partnerships for everyone involved, how do we partner with a system to make all of this stuff happen? And some of the comments, it's harder when we're dealing with a system, and it takes time, and there's different parts within your own location, state, province that's doing things differently. So how do we really partner with a system to make sure that there's equality and partnership there? Would that fit with what you're thinking, Linda?
You're on mute, Linda.
Love to hear what you're saying. Words of wisdom there.
Or babbling. Yeah, I think that's a great question, because often for most of us, I'm a parent as well. And I think for most of us, it's easy to make the system the enemy, right? Like, that's where all our problems would be solved if we had this system that was more responsive. And I'm not saying, like, I'm not Pollyanna about systemic stuff, because the bureaucratic mechanisms around systems and how they operate are often the problem. There's no flexibility, et cetera, et cetera. But I guess for me, one of the things I've learned to do is try to connect again on some kind of personal level with people in the system, and find those people that I know entered into the system as employees or part of it because they really did want to affect change. They wanted to try and make it different. And so, and trying to find common ground within that, and also acknowledging that we're not going to necessarily agree on everything. In fact, we're likely not to agree, but we can at least try to stay in the conversation. Like, let's try to acknowledge that, yes, we're coming from very different places. These are hard conversations, and let's continue to have them. I think because of the nature of both my life as a parent and my work, I think that I've been able to have those conversations with people by acknowledging their humanness too. Like I often work with people in systems that, like here right now, and I'm sure it's everywhere, it's not just British Columbia, there's not enough money. There's never enough money. And systemically, what happens for the people that have to say no is because that does not resonate with what they thought they were going to be doing in their job. I don't believe people take these jobs to say no. I think they really want to make a difference. What starts to happen is you start to blame the person that's asking or the person that needs something. And I'm sure the other parents here would probably agree with me. I can't count the number of times I've heard, well, if I give that to you, and then there's that whole guilt thing about all these other families that aren't going to get what they need. And I know it's not people trying to be cruel. I don't believe that at all. That's the real pressure they're feeling. But I think if we can acknowledge that, yes, we realize you've got a tough job, and there's going to be times you have to say no, but how about you, don't blame people because they ask. They're asking for what they need. And B, how about we acknowledge that's got to be a really rotten position to be in. We get it, but we are going to feel that decision. So at least have empathy and recognize that within your limits, we recognize you may not be able to do something right now, but also offer that back to us. You recognize that this is not an easy thing to hear, that you don't want to cause pain and suffering to people. So there is a give and take. And I've actually been working with people in this system a fair bit, like with workshops and stuff like that, around exactly that, yeah, you didn't take this job to say no. That wasn't the whole goal. And here you are saying no all the time. Don't blame that. Well, especially when it's family time, don't shoot the messenger. They're coming here with a real need. Most people, and I look at my situation with my son, and I don't go, yahoo, I get to interact with the system and ask for something. I'm not really looking forward to doing that. So recognize that people aren't asking because they're greedy and they want something that other people don't have, and trying to humanize both sides. But I guess is what I'm trying to say. I'm being too long-winded here, but for me, that's been a challenge. Yeah.
You bring up a good point, Linda, and I think a lot of it is that as the system grows, more boundaries need to be put in place, and that causes more challenges. And I think what's happened is the system responds to the outlier because of one bad choice, and then it impacts anybody else who wants to do a similar choice, even though they're not looking at taking advantage of the system.
Right.
And how do we help the system realize that an outlier is an outlier, and we don't set a protocol for an outlier, which is a big change.
Right. That's excellent. That's a really good way of putting it. Yeah.
And I really love everything you said. I was venting to my fiance last night that, I feel like working, and part of my role is within a system, is that we tend to focus so much more on just the outcomes of things. And it ends up being like that, conveyor belt at a plant at times is what the expectations are. And it does not create opportunity to address the feel that someone's going through, to address the emotions. and you're under the pressure that you just have to keep going, you have to keep going. But that is so huge for someone on the other end. And it's so hard to always bring that back to someone who's far removed from that decision or from that reality to understand and empathize really what it's like. But
Right.
I fully agree with you, is to just try to keep having those conversations to help people see what it could be like. That's the only thing I keep doing at this point. If you guys have other input, that'd be great. But yeah, that's the hardest part of it, I find.
Yeah, yeah. But we're really lucky here, and I'll make this brief. We have currently in one chunk of our system, the fellow that took over a couple of years ago is a parent as well. And the way he summed it up is, he said, I'm not, just because, I come from the parent perspective, et cetera, I can certainly make change within this system, but I can't make the system give us more money and meet everybody's needs. If I can just have people go into offices where they're dealing with government and they don't come out feeling worse they went in, that would be a win at this point. Like, just so that people, he recognizing that the staff in the system are also feeling pretty battered, but the idea isn't to go in, make your ask, have a discussion where everybody walks away feeling bad. He said, our goal is, we may not be able to give you everything we want, but we absolutely hear you need it. And we're not saying you don't need it. And we're going to try and let's put some time into trying to figure out how could we maybe find some other ways to meet at least part of your need. Yeah, so I found that encouraging. Getting it down to the line level is also another challenge, of course, because systems kind of take on a life of their own and don't want to change. And so people that have been in it are used to doing it a certain way. So it can be really challenging to have them shift their thinking.
In one of our previous Wicked Wednesday sessions, and I can't remember which one it was, the topic came up about this very thing. And it's, how do we change the nature of the conversation so that the first things out of our mouth are not, we need more money or we need more staff.
Yes.
Let's
Yes.
take those off the table and say, what other options do we have available?
Yeah.
And no one's learned how to do that.
Yeah. Well, I have to say with the microboards, that's usually where we start, is that it's like, okay, so let's not start from, well, give us enough money and we'll have great things. It's okay, so let's look at everything around this person and how can we support and grow the stuff that's like from natural relationships and from, things other than engaging with a system. There's still, for a lot of people, are going to be places where you have to, there's no question, because of the nature of the person's needs, etc. But let's start from, what are the things that are already naturally in place that we can support, so that those don't feel overburdened or feel challenged. But, let's start there and then talk about, okay, well, what might be needed in the way of paid supports after that.
And again, if people are hearing things that they want to add to the board.
Yeah, please.
I was going to say, I wrote down, and I kind of hear it keep coming up, is you really don't know unless you ask. So I think that's important to keep in mind. And I've been learning it this past year and a half with everything that's happened with COVID, going to people and just telling them, this is what's going on, help me figure this out. And I have gotten more positive responses than I really anticipated. One of our struggles was, a lot of the self-advocates I work with don't have iPads, and they need an iPad to do their job effectively. No lie, I've got funding for 10 iPads, no strings attached. They're like, we'll fund them. I was like, wait, what? I was like, because I was just coming to you for advice, and they funded it. And it's just, you just don't know. And also have a plan in place. So don't, I have to have notes, otherwise I detour. And sometimes it's best not to detour, it's just stick to it. Here, this is my problem. This is how I want to solve it. What do you think? And it's been helpful to do that too, is already present not just the problem, but a solution to that problem. That's all I got.
Great conversations. Linda, I was curious, you said you were the executive director of the organization. Does that mean that your organization had multiple microboards underneath it, or it was just one microboard that you were working?
No, they're not underneath us. We are a mentorship organization. We don't do direct support. Okay. So we help microboards come to be, if that's what the person and the people around them feel is the best route to go. So our first line of connection is just explaining what it is and finding out if it's a fit for people. And then if that's what they want to do, then our staff, we have a really tiny team, like really tiny. Our staff then walks the walk with them. So helps them with all the bureaucratic stuff they're going to have to go through to create a little tiny nonprofit, and then how to plan with people for what they want life to look like, and then taking that plan to government and presenting it. How do you do that? So the way we describe the relationship is our relationship with them is mandatory. If you say, I need help with, we'll come in and help you to the best of our ability. Your relationship is voluntary. So if you're going, we got this handled, we don't need you, so we're not going to muck about in people's business. So it's a bit of a paradigm shift for a lot of people, because they said, you didn't call back. I said, well, remember, we said that if you need us, call. So really, they're not under us, they're independent entities, but we provide the education and the mentorship to get them going and to sustain them. So right now we have about 1,400 active microboards in British Columbia.
Wow.
And we work in, I've done work in Northern Ireland, Norway, parts of the States, and Australia. So yeah, and it's really an attraction, not a promotion. So we started with a pilot of 3 people, Shanti being one of them. And then other families heard about it and said, we're kind of curious about this. And so that's basically how it's gone for the history of our organization. So people hear about what we're doing and then they say, can you, would you come out and talk to us? And so we'll go and see if people are interested. Great, we'll help them. And if not, that's okay too. We don't need to butt our heads in where we're not wanted. So and we have right now, well, I'm no longer the executive director, as I mentioned, I'm doing special projects, which is so much better. I hate bureaucracy and administration. And so we have 2 people that took my old job. And then we have facilitators, and I'm just trying to count where they're at right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 facilitators for the entire province. And we are a big province. Like it takes, quite a bit of time to get from Vancouver, which is the area I'm in, up to the far north, which is at the Yukon-Alaska border. So yeah, so it's quite large areas for like one of our facilitators, because it's not a well-populated. She basically does the top third of the province, and it's a big area with many people. So she spends a lot of time pre-COVID. She spent a lot of time on the road, meeting with people in small communities, remote communities.
Right. So thank you for that, Linda. I see we've got about 9 minutes left. So if there are any gems that came out from this that you really want to capture, feel free to add your Post-its. And then we'll do a quick checkout and let you have the rest of your day. And 1,400 in just the province alone, that's probably more than we have in the States for microboards.
Yeah, well, we've been at it for a long time. It's just, I think probably part of what helps is that we've got sustainable funding, so people don't pay for us. And that's a big difference, like the agency itself. I mean, we struggle to get money like everybody does, but not to the same extent. Our skill set is recognized as a value. And I know for a lot of people, a lot of the agencies have a hard time getting that money to keep going.
Mm-hmm. And is that government funding that supports you?
Some of it, yeah, we get gaming funding. So it's government funding, but it's independent of any system. And then we do get some money from Community Living British Columbia, and we get donations. So we sort of have a three streams of funding.
Okay. All right.
I'm curious. I just want to ask a quick question about, because it's been a while since I was involved with any, microboard issues in the, here in the States. But, I know there was a lot of work happening in Tennessee. I'm not sure if it still is. And I know there was some divergence with self-directed supports corporations, and people may have heard of those and not even be clear on the association or the difference. And I'm not clear on where the difference is currently. So is there any quick update that you might give us?
Yeah, I'll try to be quick. Yeah, basically
it's hard to be
from
quick,
our
I know
perspective.
that, yeah.
Basically from our perspective, we actually hold copyright and trademark to the name and the process, and those are really important to us, especially the process. So the philosophy behind it. So people, and the only reason we hold that is we're not trying to keep it from people. It's like, if you're going to do something similar, that's great. just don't call it a microboard. Like I know in some states, for instance, the government wasn't allowing family to sit on a microboard. From our perspective, the state, whether it's Canada, Norway, or the US, doesn't tell us who sits on a microboard. That's part of what makes a microboard who it is. It's the people the individual wants, not the state. So we said, do what you're doing. If that's working for people, just don't call it a microboard. So really,
Sure.
it's a philosophical difference, because we do
A
have
lot of
quite
parallels with person-centered planning and fidelity.
Exactly. Then and that's the word, the fidelity to that approach to, and that philosophy to supporting people, that they really are the center of everything we do. And we don't have a lot of systemic stuff around that. It's really much more directed to what does that person want and how are we going to help them realize that.
So when you think about the calling question about, kind of how we can change the nature of the relationships, I mean, that on a systemic level, it gives teeth legally.
Right. Exactly.
And, where a lot of places there's only illusion.
Exactly. And a lot of places are quite nervous about what we do, to be honest, including in Canada. Like it's like, wait a minute, you're giving the power to the individual. That's,
I'm a firm believer, in order to have control, you have to give up control.
Yeah, exactly.
Scary for a system.
Yep.
So we are at the end of our time together today. So just want to do a quick checkout, closing round, if you will. You can please put your Post-its on sheet number 8. It says, how are you leaving today's session? And I'd like to up that a little bit. What did you appreciate about today's session? You can just share your thoughts on a sticky note, and then you are free to have the rest of your day. And we'll see you next week, where we've got Patty Scott, who'll be joining us to really thinking about next week's topic is, how do we get rooted back to our values and purpose and realize the resources available in the community? So Patty Scott from Neighbors Inc. will be helping us with that.
The great state of New Jersey.
So thank you all for taking time today to be with us. And Linda, thank you for being persistent and getting on the computer. That's always a challenge. So once you share your thoughts, you are free to go, and we will see you next week, hopefully. So thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, thank you. I
everyone.
enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Have a
you.
good
Until
day.
next time.